Welcome back, everyone, to Data Science for Everyone. Today, we're going to be taking a quick look at HTML forms. Let's get started. So first off, let's go in and create up a new HTML file. And again, I'm just going to put this on my desktop, put this in HTML forms quick for a quick example. And again, just as usual, I'm going to call this index.html. And let's go on and just fill this in quickly. And we'll remove this, we'll remove this just to have it clean. And we're going to go on and call this just HTML forms, quick example. So sometimes you want to be able to create up forms and interact with it with JavaScript. And right now, though, I just want to show you guys how to deal with the forms and actually create up forms. So first off, you can go inside the body here and you can create up a form. Okay, and then it may have some sort of action. You may want to have some form elements inside of here. And the form element itself is a container for different types of inputs. Okay, so maybe we could put up a text field, a checkbox, a radial button, maybe a submit button, okay? Now we also have an input element. Input in here, and so for example, we can put in a button, we can put in maybe a checkbox, we can put in a date, we can do emails, we can do files, we can have months, numbers. We have, look at this, we have all kinds of different types of inputs that we can utilize, okay? But again, the most common are text, okay? Radio, so again, this displays a radio button, so you can select many choices. Another one is a checkbox, and again, this one is you can start selecting out 0 or more choices. Our submit, okay, and also just a normal button. Now, we also have our text fields. So for example, let's go on and create up maybe a text field, and this defines usually a single line of input. So let's do this. Let's also, and we'll talk about labels as well. So a label here is used to define a label for many form elements. So for instance, we have something like first name, okay, or you know what, and let's for someone's first name, okay, and then maybe let's actually go on and create up a break in there, and then we would maybe put in an input, whoops, in here, and we want this to be a text input. So the name of this input, for example, would be first name. Oh, actually, let's put and we would also put in an ID in here, which would be first name as well. Okay, and we'll put in a nice break in there. So then maybe we also want to have a last name, so we can actually go in and just maybe copy these, put them down in here, and so let's go in and change these up to last name, last name, last, and last. And so just if we quickly go over here and we take a look, and I can bring it over here for us. Notice here now we have a nice text box where I can put my name, last name. Okay, we have all that information there. Great. So that works out nicely, but maybe we want to put in other types of elements. So for example, we have radial buttons or something else. Now, before I move on to radial buttons, let me take a quick, deeper discussion into the labels, okay? So the label defines, this label tag, okay, defines a label for an element, okay, for form elements. Now the label element is going to be used for screen reader users, okay? So for screen reader, it will read out loud the label when the user focuses on an element. Now this label element also helps users who have difficulty clicking on very small regions to be able to actually click on these boxes. So it's very helpful for them to use those, okay? So it also has this accessibility feature for it. Now we can also utilize radio buttons. So let's maybe go on and make an example using a radio button here. And I'm just going to actually just put them down below so that we can just have a list of them. So we'll have an input put here, and we will want a radio. And let's give it an ID of just HTML. You know what? Let's do Python and Python here. Okay, or maybe instead of, yeah, let's do Python here, and maybe let's do name here instead is our favorite programming language. Okay, and then here we need to set up a value. Okay, value here is Python. Okay, now we need to add in another thing for our label. Okay, and notice here now it has a 4. All right, and here we want to set this up for our Python. Okay, and we also want to put in here Python. Okay, so our nice label here. And if we just take a second to go over and look, oh, then I actually closed this, didn't I? Bring it over here. Notice now we actually have a radial button with Python next to it, okay? So if we went back over here and we added in another, and I'm just going to copy and paste this, and we'll change this to Scala. Okay, or Scala here, and we change this to Scala and Scala. Go back over and I refresh. Notice now we have Scala down here. Notice now we can change out the radial buttons. And again, we could do this again and again. Maybe we add in one more for good measure in here. And let's change this to, well, since this current portion of the course is utilizing JavaScript, let's put in JavaScript and JavaScript, and we'll change this again to JavaScript and JavaScript. All right, go back over and refresh, and notice now we have it here. Now, I was putting these breaks in, and let's say that you want to maybe remove one of the breaks and put it over. Notice it puts it to the side. So it's very easy. If you want them to be along this way, you can remove that break. If you want them down in a line, okay, or in a column, you can put the breaks in there as well. So maybe we can add in some extra information in here. So something like, please, maybe you're writing up a, some sort of form for people trying to gauge their interest in programming language. Please give us your first and last name. Please select your favorite programming language. Okay, and we'll add back our BR tag there. Run this over, refresh, and notice now you have a nice little form in here. So we can do Bob, Barker, and Scala. Okay, so we can also do, with these, we can also do checkboxes. So let's go on and make up some checkboxes. So we can do our input here, a checkbox, And maybe this is about, I don't know, modes of transportation, okay? So we can do transport, and let's say that you need multiple, okay? So you have, you know, your skateboard, you have your bicycle, you have a motorcycle, okay? Well, then we can do transport one, transport one. And notice here, that's why actually with these radio buttons, notice we're all using the same one for the name here is the programming language for the name, okay? Well, that's because those radio buttons, when you select them, you only want one to be selected at a time, okay? And you only want one value. Now, whenever you utilize a checkbox, you may want more than one. So that's what you're gonna do here. So you want mode of transportation 1, and the value here is going to be skateboard, okay? And then, whoops. And then let's go on and put a label in here for our transport 1. All right, and then we also want to have something say like, I use my skateboard. Okay, then we have, again, we can just go on and copy these lines here and put them in. And let's put in a transport 2, transport 2, and maybe we do bike, transport 2, I use my bike. And then we can do, again, a transport 3 here. 3, and let's say my rollerblades. Okay, it's my rollerblades. All right, and let's change this one as well to 3 here. If we go over and we refresh, notice I use my skateboard, I use my bike, I use my rollerblades. And notice here they all, we can select some, we can select all, they all work out just fine. All right, and again, if you want them to be in a line, you can use the break as well. So last but definitely not least is we may want to put in a submit button. Okay, so maybe they have filled out all of this form and you want them to be able to submit it somewhere. Okay, well, then you can put in here an input here, and we can just do submit. And again, submit here would just be, maybe you would, yeah, maybe just submit. Okay. And notice now you have, whoops, maybe we need to put a break in here. So let's do break and maybe put another break. So it's down a little bit further. All right, and notice now you have a submit button where you may want, once they have filled this out, you want them to submit it and do something with that data. Okay, so maybe one of the last things that we should talk about is you can also give in the name attribute, which I've kind of just dismissed it a little bit while we were going through this. And so each of these actually has name. You can see that right here. If I highlight that, they're all highlighted. Now, we know that each field must have a name attribute when it's submitted. Now, if the name attribute is omitted, then the value in the input field will not be sent at all. Okay, so if you want to keep the data, you have to have the name. Okay, so this was just a quick update and to show you guys about utilizing forms in JavaScript. If you guys like this type of content and you want more of it, please like, subscribe, and hit that like button once again, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.